McGann is here. He's doing the Weekend at Hilarities. Greetings.
Greetings. What's going on, Alan?
I don't
How
know
are
if
you
you and I have ever
me.
met, but I feel like we know a lot of the same people. And so I need to lay the timeline out. I'm going to figure this out.
Okay.
Because I'm a Chicago guy. I used to do stand-up.
Love it. I saw the pennant of Super Bowl 20 in your office, and
Yeah.
I took a photo of it, Alan.
So when did you get going? You know, people talk about Pat McGann. They're like, he kind of got to it later in his life or career or whatever, but you blew up pretty quickly. So when did you start doing it?
I started doing stand-up like 2008. I was 31.
2008?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was...
So I was way before you then, because I'm old. I was like 91 is when I started.
Did you start stand-up in Chicago?
In Chicago. I never did the road. So it was just, back then, back in the day, it was the Funny Firm. There was a Catch at the Hyatt Regency.
Oh, so you know a lot of...
Mike
Toomey.
Toomey, yeah.
John
Jeff
Caponera.
Hoover, all those
Jeff
guys.
Hoover, come on.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
all those
hilarious.
guys. I know. Yeah,
Oh my
'cause
gosh,
he
that's-
and I used to work on, I started... There was a period of time where I was doing stand-up, and then I kind of fell ass backwards into radio, but I was working for Brandmeier at the Loop.
This is hilarious.
And so Jeff Hoover was like one of the other writers on the show, and now he's over at GN with all those guys. But you and I probably, because like if you started in 08, I went back home from like 06 to 09. And right before I moved to Cleveland, I did like a farewell show or whatever at Zany's.
No kidding.
But I don't think you
I
were
was probably
there then.
just hitting open mics and maybe showcasing there. But
I think
right
it was
around
Dobie
that time-
I think was the guy that was.
Okay, yeah.
I know
Dobie was
him.
really active there
Yeah.
at that
He
time.
gave it all
yeah,
up.
for sure. And then, he kind of walked away from it.
Yeah.
But right around that time, I was asked to be the house MC at Zany's, and that ended up being huge for me.
Yeah.
Because I ended up getting a ton of stage time. And, that club, they're open every night of the week, and I was only off on Monday nights. And that was like late 09, 2010. And I did that for several years.
This is when you're like working the day job and then getting up at night. Is that how it worked?
Yeah, I was still in sales, and then I
Married at that
traveling a
point?
lot. I was had just met my wife, and then was getting engaged.
Yeah.
Like during that whole time, I was house MC when we had our first child. So I
So-
kind of stayed in that role until 2015ish, and then that's where I met Sebastian as house MC, and then Sebastian started taking me on the road. And then I still wasn't really able to travel a lot. And then I started going out with him again and kind of became his opener.
Did you come through last time when he did that arena? When he did the arena downtown?
I didn't. I got COVID, and I...
Oh, really?
At the last minute, I had that. Yeah, I
Oh,
couldn't
that
do
sucks.
The Cleveland, Detroit, or Chicago. I couldn't do United Center. Couldn't do
Really?
Hall.
The United
bummer.
Center.
Oh,
Oh,
man.
God.
So it was ended up being a little bit different than planned, but it all worked out.
Well, to me, it was always very strange because, like, in the early 90s, there were a bunch of clubs you could do. And then I started doing radio, and I never really stopped doing it, but I wasn't getting up every night anymore. And so then I go back to, I get hired at Q101. And so I go back in like 06, and it was, everybody was doing stand-up. Like in the early 90s, everybody went to Chicago to do improv.
Yeah.
Right? If you were doing stand-up, you were kind of... I don't know what it even was, but it wasn't like there were plenty of clubs just because it was the end of that boom, that 80s club boom, right? But then they all closed except Zany's.
I mean, I've heard stories about comics in Chicago. They could work all year without driving an hour.
I never left.
And they,
like, I just would work rooms in the city.
And then including up maybe to Milwaukee would be as far as you go, but even Northwest Indiana and then through that town. But, I mean, when you say Jonathan Brandmeier, going back to that, when I was growing up and commuted, like, with my parents downtown for, like, high school jobs and... I mean, Johnny B, there was nothing bigger.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if people realize that guy.
Again,
he was selling out arena. He was selling out
Poplar Creek and Again, this means nothing to people here. I'm homering here with Pat McGann. But so then you kind of meet Sebastian, and he goes, "Hey, I really like the cut of your jib."
It's
right?
exactly what he said.
Yeah,
That
Those
sounds
are the
like
words.
the way
Same
he
words.
talks.
A little slower, but
He uses the word jib
Yeah.
so much. It's
I like the cut of your jib. Yeah.
It's the jib. That's what it is.
And was it intimidating to kind of make that? You've been doing it for a while, obviously, but when you're doing Madison Square Garden,
Sure.
do you have to get into that headspace, or was it you're just like, look, it's a room like any other room?
you
I'm
know,
just
maybe
up
I'm
on a
there,
jumbotron.
I might be there now.
Yeah.
But the first time doing the arenas with him was insane. And it's still insane, don't get me wrong, but maybe a little bit more comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
The biggest adjustment for those is doing it in the round, which I'm not.
Right.
You know, Sebastian Maniscalco, who I'm sure most people listening know who he is.
Yeah.
He's very physical, and he has a lot of act outs to his performance.
It's like a ballet dancer.
It's a lot of space to fill when you're in an arena. He is like a ballet dancer,
Yeah.
right? And when I'm in that space, that's a little bit more challenging for me, just because I'm not the biggest.
Because you're just kind of waddling in the
Mover.
circle.
Yeah.
Right.
Take
So-
a couple extra awkward steps. Just
I don't know
'cause
if he
you have
likes
space.
the cut of my jib in the arenas. He's like, your jib is not cut correctly for these arenas.
Hey, cut back on the jib, will ya? Yeah. No, but I mean, Bert was the guy that was running Zanies, and,
Sure,
and
yeah.
I think he's gone now. But I mean,
He just retired, yeah.
yeah. But for me, that's just one of those great classic rooms. The ceiling's low and it's dark because all these other places were trying to kind of do new things. There's a whole bunch of clubs now in Chicago that I'm sure you work. You know, they have a Comedy Store and whatever else it is. That place downtown, I don't know.
Laugh Factory, they got that.
Something like that, yeah. Laugh Factory, not Comedy Store. But Zany's just a great, great room.
It is, and
Yeah.
you know, it's like the hilarities of Chicago in terms of it's been there forever. It's been bringing in great acts. Has a it's run independently.
Yeah.
and it's got a great relationship with most of the comics. And
What was the transition for you when you're like, okay, I'm moving away from the day gig, and now I'm doing stand-up. Now I'm doing stand-up and I'm engaged. Now I'm doing stand-up and I have a kid. Because then it gets into the thing where, well, honey, I've got to go out and work. Right, it's nighttime, right? I mean, that's a weird transition to make probably, but you're not going to stop doing it because that's what you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been an adjustment, and as it's each year, I feel like if it's going in the right direction, I want to stick with it, and I'm having a lot of fun, doing stand up.
Yeah.
The sacrifice of the family is a significant thing, and the pandemic really put that under a microscope more than ever. Being at home was a good thing for me. Kind of reconnected me with everyone. Reconnected me with my wife too. I thought we
Yeah.
were connected before. Apparently not. She hated me.
You learned something?
And that came out.
Yeah, I hate your guts.
Yeah, you're the worst person ever. You're never around. But yeah, being home was huge. And now my kids are getting older too. I could take them out on the road. But during each of those transition points, yeah, it was a little bit tough. But just like other people out there that are struggling with, you get family, you get hardship, you get problems.
Yeah.
You just roll with it.
Yeah. Pat McGann is at Hilarities this weekend. You can go to pickwickandfrolic.com for the details. Let me take a few seconds here and give away some money. It's $1,000 right now. You're going to listen for this keyword, and good luck.
The Buzzard wants you to go fund yourself and score $1,000. Enter the nationwide keyword BILLS at WMMS.com. That's BILLS. Enter it now at WMMS.com. And good luck from Buzzard Radio.
So you're doing the day job for a while, and were you the guy that was always like, man, I've got good stuff. I think.
Can I thank you first for wrapping $1,000 giveaway around the promo of my shows? If everyone did that, if everyone gave out $1,000 when I was on the show,
We only do it for you.
that would be amazing.
We planned that just for you.
Now your name will
If
be
you want to
associated.
pick up your $1,000, come to Hilarities. We're giving Alan Cox has $1,000 in his pocket. If you can find him
Of his own
in the
money.
Pickwick, it's a big place.
Yeah. Check under the cabaret room.
Yeah.
So you're doing the day job for a while, and was it something where like coworkers were like, man, you're funny, Pat? Or were you like, this is just something I've kind of wanted to do, and I think I would be good at it?
I mean, I think that me and my buddies growing up, I mean, the whole point of our existence was to be funny. Like,
Yeah.
we're always trying to make people laugh. So I think I always had that, like, kind of, making comments or looking for the funny angle to everything. They were fun and funny people. I think they were surprised when I was starting to go to open mics. I mean, it was hard for me to make that leap because I was never on a stage. That was the hardest thing. Was like, I have this stuff written, but I'm not going on a stage to say it. I was petrified.
Yeah. Well, that was the wildest thing, too, is like when I went back in 2006, like I was kind of alluding to before, like there were fewer clubs, but there seemed to be way more people doing stand-up because every bar had a comedy night.
Yeah.
So but you'd go, and I'm sure you remember this or know this, you'd go to open mic nights. there'd be 30 people on a list.
Oh yeah.
And you were just sitting through
that the best?
awful, like
long.
at the Globe Pub or something, on a Tuesday, and you're just sitting in the back going, oh my God. So every place has got a long list for open mic night. But these places, because they weren't comedy clubs, they were like, we'll just have a sign-up sheet, and however many people put their name down, 30 would be a conservative number. Yeah, you're waiting there all night.
I mean, that's when it's a kind of like a war of attrition, this whole comedy game. And that's when it begins, just sitting there when you're number 32, 33 and waiting.
And not peeling off.
Is part of the hard work. And that was the difficult thing, because a lot of times you go into an open mic and you don't want to go up anyway. You're kind of dragging yourself there because you're already nervous and you're like, I gotta do it. There's no shortcut. You got to do it.
Yeah.
And sitting there and waiting your turn is the tough thing.
It gives you 32 people to second guess yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
But it's also like, it's funny when you talk to people outside of it, right? Like anyone listening right now, there's like that competitive element that's in there, and that's in the room, and that's palpable too. But even with that, which is fascinating to me, always with comedy, it's the most supportive atmosphere too. Like most comics are really rooting for each other, and that energy kind of keeps you there as well.
It can be, yeah.
And then talking to people after your set or dissecting everything, like that becomes a whole thing too.
Yeah.
And like kind of like having that group of guys that you come up with, and you see them getting something, and you start getting stuff, and you're like, oh my God, it's working. And like they see you go through the process of writing a joke, and from like the beginning where it's like, okay, we get the idea of the premise, and then more of the finished product, they're like, hey, we learned how to do this, and we're getting more efficient at it. That's very fun to go through.
Oh yeah, exactly, the process.
Is your hour on Amazon?
It is, yeah. Amazon and Peacock. It's called When's Mom Gonna Be Home?
Yeah.
And Sebastian Maniscalco actually produced it. We shot it in Chicago at the Vic Theater, and I wanted to release it. I was waiting for the pandemic. And I was
end?
No,
just for people to be stuck at home. Yeah,
that was the
that was the end goal.
Well, first of all, it's called When's Mom Gonna Be Home. You could tell we taped it and named it before the pandemic, because after that it was like, when Mom's always home. When is Mom not gonna be home?
Right.
I mean, that was the biggest thing we had to roll with. We already had that name on it.
So the Vic Theater's a great room too. I think Gaffigan did an album there, and it's a nice big room to do something like that.
Yeah, it's beautiful theater.
Yeah. So you alluded to earlier, like over the course of the pandemic, you're like, oh, I've got to kind of reconnect with my family here. Were you like gone at long stretches to the point where your wife's like, yeah, this kind of isn't what I envisioned it was going to be?
Yeah, I mean,
and then a lot of time goes by, and you're faced with like, oh, now I have to kind of figure this whole thing out.
Well, to give you an idea, Sebastian, he just was named by Polestar like the 2021 Tour of the Year, and I think he was second place the year that he was eligible before. He lost to like Elton John, and that's based on tickets sold and shows that you did. So we were grinding out there.
Yeah,
we would come home during the week, typically come home on Sunday or Monday, and typically leave Wednesday or Thursday. And then when I'm not with him, like I said, I'm doing, a corporate gig here and there or own clubs. So it's significant. Yeah, it's a lot. And
before he made that leap to arenas where you're getting more shows, like I think one time when he was here, he did Playhouse, and he did like 5 or 6 shows.
Yes, yeah.
So like that's so taxing to do that many shows, that size of a crowd. I mean, it's a good problem to have, but it's just like, it's like you're adding nights all the time. Like that's insane.
It's a lot of effort.
Yeah.
It's a stamina.
And more so for him. And that's what I've like, being on this ride with him is like, my takeaways have been the work ethic, the focus, and just kind of like the relentless drive to see like kind of what it takes. Like, it's not a mistake that he's playing at that level.
Yeah. He didn't fall ass backwards into
hard.
it. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, when you think about just him, is that people think he popped up overnight, but he didn't, man. He was doing it for a long time before anybody. You kind of hear his name in the wind from time to time, and then more people but he didn't just pop out of nowhere. Is that kind of what he saw in you? I mean, obviously funny, and he liked what you were doing, but he was like, here's a guy that understands what is required for this, right? That there's a drive there, and it requires a lot of stamina to do this.
I think it was that, and I also think it was just the fact that we had like a easy chemistry in terms of his vibe is, and he talks about it in his book, is he kind of looks at himself as like a cat. Like he takes a little bit to warm up to, and he's, a quiet guy. Like as animated and loud as he is on stage, he's pretty calm off stage. He's a focused dude and very, just, he's not surrounded by noise and people and just stuff going on all the time.
Right.
So I kind of leave him alone. And I give him his space, and I've always been that way, and I think he respects that too.
That's weird,
just like not crowding someone. And
last time we talked to him, he's like, "Ask Pat, because I think he's mad at me. He just won't hang out with me. He's always leaving me alone.
Keeps calling me his pussycat. I don't know what that is.
Is everything okay with him? Yeah. You can go to patmcganncomedy.com, MCGANN comedy.com. When's Mom Gonna Be Home is on Peacock and Amazon. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah. And you can get all the shows and details there. But this weekend, Pat is at Hilarities. Tonight, tomorrow, Saturday. You got the Sunday too, or no?
No, just Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We got a show tonight at 7, and then tomorrow and Saturday, 6:45 and 9:30.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And you can go to pickwickandfrolic.com for all the details on the tickets. And tell everyone in Chicago I said hello.
I will, Alan. So good to meet you, dude.
It's nice to meet you, too. Let me take a break. Me. Absolutely. 35192 if you want to text for anything in here. Wherever you are, you can listen to the show on the iHeartRadio app.